Hey everyone, Mammoth finally played their first lot of games last night. I just wanted to do a quick video on thoughts on both games and do a quick comparison why they were so successful versus Unicorns of Love, and then what they didn't do so well versus Clutch Gaming, and potentially what they need to look to do in future games. So just quickly looking at the draft, but what's interesting, I think like the way they drafted was a lot more control in terms of like river control and a lot more threat. So if you look at what I mean by threat is champions such as Skarner, Syndra, Nautilus. If you don't know where they are, it can be really scary for the enemy to play appropriately. So Skarner is just one of those picks that always kind of has a lot of presence in these tournaments purely because forces either the enemy to buy a QSS or if they don't, then they have to play respectfully. And especially when you got Syndra, who kind of gives you that lane pressure, which gives kind of that room to move around the map and to get his level 6 pretty safely. I think that this was a really smart draft from Mammoth, and this is like the way that I want to see them draft. And I think that Fudge playing this sort of matchup top, a scaling matchup that requires a lot of skill, but if he plays well, it seems like a free win. I think this is the way they should draft it. I really like Fudge's GP, and I think he played this game really, really well and absorbed a lot of pressure. If you actually fast forward through this game, as the game progresses, Bot was kind of left on an island 2v2, just purely from the way they UOL drafted. They had to play towards this GP and kill the GP. And unfortunately, and like when you draft like this with Unicorns of Love, you've got so much pressure on shutting down this GP. And against like these really good top laners like Fudge, and I mean, if you slip up once, it's really, really hard to recoup. And that's what we saw this game. Echo was constantly trying to path top, but they couldn't really punish this GP enough. And then he just got out of control. So if you look at this, this is like a really standard play. Triples obviously communicated, I have TP. If they look for a dive top, I'll TP. I feel like this was also partly misexecuted by Unicorns of Love. They should have waited here, and then Corki should have been the one who initiated this. They should have waited for Corki TP behind on that pink ward in the thing. Again, this is what's even difficult about that is that they can wave clear so easily with GP, and if Syndra TPs just slightly before, they can clear the wave very, very fast. And under GP, ult and orange is really difficult. As game progresses, look at this. Look at the amount of river control that Mammoth have at this time in the game. They've got Tristana and Nautilus being able to push 2v2. Syndra's being able to constantly push this Corki in, even though Corki has built Hexdrinker. And this is partly due to the point that Nautilus is constantly in the river, out of vision, so Corki has to respect. And Skarner as well is out of vision on pinks as well. This is something that people who don't play competitive really underestimate, is the amount of threat that champions such as Nautilus and Skarner, and when you don't see them on the map, it can just be really, really scary. And look at this. It's basically, I mean, he's actually behind in CS boss in this 1v1, which is really, really scary for Renekton right now, and because GP is just going to get out of control. And one thing I really like about this draft, why GP is really good as well, GP is really good as a counter engage. So Echo, Renekton, Alistar, Kai'Sa, they all have to go in. They all have to dive onto the Syndra. They all have to dive onto the Tristana. They have to dive in. And what GP does, as you'll see in this game, is that he just lays down the ultimate, has the threat of the barrels, and they can pretty much never win team fights reliably. And I think it's way too much threat for Corki to be able to output damage. So they're just going to lose the 5v5. But then if you don't win the 5v5, you have to win the split. And they don't win the split either. Renekton can't really punish GP. So a pretty clean game from Mammoth. And I think that is props to both King and Destiny, hard winning 2v2 and pressuring, but also a solid drive from Richard, and Fudge playing a tough matchup well and dealing with the early pressure. Look at this. Even this whole part of the game, they haven't got a single tower. They've only got a few plates, and Mammoth have complete control on top side. Look at the way Nautilus can constantly path. He's not even showing. He's just constantly in the river. They've got pinks all down the river. They can't really do anything. It's really restricting for Unicorns of Love, and this kind of continues all throughout the game. They constantly had the push. There was a time where Corki got a bit strong on the side lane, but it didn't really matter because GP was just grouping. GP wasn't splitting. And then whenever they grouped, they just won the team fight 5v5. And what I want to do is quickly compare this to the game versus Clutch. It's very different. If you look at this, they've got Azir, Nocturne. So your mid 2v2 versus Orianna, Elise, especially in the early game, is really, really, really rough. Like, I mean, you're not really going to have any river control. And look at this. Already, early in the game, Nocturne was scared to even do his Grom because he had no idea where Elise was. Tristana can freely push, and Nocturne has no threat onto Tristana. And this is my problem with Nocturne, I think, and why I think Nocturne's a really situational pick. Nocturne, it's really hard for Nocturne to kill bot, especially since, Rakan's really good into Nocturne. It's hard to kill Tristana top, and it's hard to even kill Orianna mid. And I'll explain. Even when Nocturne gets 6, he can't do anything because there's no pressure. There's nowhere for him to go. So this matchup mid, it's a very skill matchup reliant. It's very much a skill matchup, and it like swings at different levels. But when Azir has to respect and when Azir has no river control, and Rakan and Elise can constantly do this in the bot side river, Orianna can play very freely, and Nocturne can't do anything. As soon as Nocturne hits 6, look at this, he's 6 off thing. Look, and he's looking to ult, but they have no idea where Rakan is. They don't know where Rakan is. They don't know where Elise is. They don't know right now. Like, Triple's looking in OPL, if they had, like, even some sort of river control, they would easily go for this play. But because they don't know where, Clutch Gaming is already ready to respond, and even if he hits that sweep, it doesn't matter. Demonte would just flash after that, and then he would just get countered by the Elise and the Rakan. So it's actually probably good that Triple missed this. Otherwise, it probably would have been a bit of a disaster. But now that Bubby wasted his first Nocturne ult, there was no kill, only a flash from Demonte. It is really, really, really hard. Now there's no pressure. Huni top can just freely push. He's not scared at all. There's no threat. He can just jump in like he's been doing like this. Bot lane, there's no threat. They can just play their 2v2 wave clear and scale up with Rakan. And then they just completely control river and can control all objective. Have you noticed like how different this is to the first game, where the way they draft, the early pressure which led to all that river control, there's just non-existent in this game. And I think if you give teams like this, especially with players like Huni, the freedom to be able to play their game through top like this, I don't see how Mammoth can win. So what I would like to see next time from Mammoth is a more of an aggressive draft. And I can sympathize with Mammoth because in scrims, it's completely different. Maybe they played a lot of Nocturne in scrims and actually worked really well. With these top teams, it's a bit greedy to play scaling in your jungle. I think it's better to play scaling in your lanes like top, like playing the likes of GP and stuff like that. What I want to see from Richard and from Mammoth is more of an emphasis on getting that mid jungle control so Fudge can play the skill matchups, because I think that Fudge, he's really impressed me, and I think if you give him that room, that freedom to play aggressive and create threat on the laners, then look, they have full control on top side. They can't really, they're just catching waves on the tower. They're pretty much split. Bubip doesn't have ultimate, and they're a really ultimate based team, to be honest. Like with Nautilus and Nocturne, they need ults. Without Nocturne, you can't really fight, and they're losing all pressure, and they can't fight. So you're just giving all this freedom to Clutch. And at this point, I feel like a good team, it's more about Clutch losing the game rather than Mammoth winning in a way. Like, Clutch would have to throw. And one thing I want to note, people say, oh no, but a lot of engage and threat onto this Orianna. If you don't have control in the first place, you're not going to be able to use those ultimates to kill the Orianna because, I mean, look, firstly, he has stopwatch. So that's already one ultimate neutralized. But other than that, you're never going to have river control 2v2. So because you've got Tristana's pushing in top as much as he wants, bot can just wave clear and push as well by the looks of it. I'm actually not too familiar with the 2v2, but then Elise, just the threat of Elise with no cleanse on triple and stuff like that, it's really difficult. So they're just going to concede river. And one thing I also want to note, this is a really difficult game for Uzier, even in mid-game, because there's so much threat. I feel like Rakan and Elise and all these champions like Tristana that can jump and move and run can be pretty difficult for Azir to sit there and play the fights. They saw a different jungle this game. I don't know what, maybe something that maybe like an Olaf or a Lee Sin or something like that. They even could have just picked Skarner early and then changed the Azir pick to something else with more threat. Individually, they can stack up. I just want to see more pressure. Thanks guys for watching, and hopefully I'll release some more videos as Mammoth play some more games. Thank you.